Do you enjoy the safety and sanctity of a house? The joy of yelling at the local youth to get off your lawn, and the knowledge no one is constructing a nuclear bomb underneath your floorboards? Well, this might not be the video for you, because in my cheese-induced hallucinations, I had a vision of a rat utopia, and in this vision, no one else was allowed in. No elves, no dwarves, and definitely no girls. So to avoid anyone finding our clubhouse, we need to build them underneath everyone else's cities. In fact, I plan on never building or capturing a city above ground for this entire campaign. Foregoing the base mechanics of recruitment, healing, increased hero capacity, trade agreements, and basic defenses for the promise of cheese factories, stealing people's money, and nuclear bombs. For this challenge, we will start with one settlement above ground, but never take another, and if we lose this one location, the campaign is over. So, can we beat the game and survive Ultimate Crisis mode with only Skaven Undercities? Probably not, but don't worry, I have a contingency if we fail. But first, this is Icket Claw, the local expert on home defense and the leader of Clan Scryer. This is the faction we went with, as they start with the capital city of Skavenblight. Imagine, if you would, a city built by an AI programmed to optimize the worst experience possible for a malnourished crackhead. That's the equivalent of the front door to Skavenblight, but it does give us a bonus to Undercities later on. That sounds somewhat handy for an Undercity only run. But what do I know? I'm just a missile stalling you with this whimsical story while I track your location. We started off strong, King hitting the nation of Estelia in the head, then immediately hiding underneath their house, while our Warlock engineer did the same to my east. Here, an STD-riddled gypsy killed everyone with her sword legs. Despite playing the only faction with nuclear bombs, which I had already started upgrading in my laboratory, this terrified me, so I became her friendly little mascot. And for the love of the Great Horned One, I didn't tell her about my cheese raiding operation under her bed. On the other side of Skavenblight, Estelia was just about dead. This would complete my tutorial quest and count towards my short victory condition. That would greatly help the campaign. But I had an Undercity in their territory, and killing them would destroy it. So the faction I have to destroy is a fundamental of Clan Scryer gameplay. I signed a non-aggression pact and killed the beastmen who are about to wipe them out, allowing them to resettle to the west. Just don't stress out if you hear bells and chittering at night. It's probably nothing. It's safe to say things were a little unorthodox for our start, but ultimately all was well. I had Undercities and peace with the rebels and pirates around. Belegar Ironhammer called me up asking for a measly 950 gold of my 4,000, calling me his greasy little pay pig. Much like a sentient landmine on a BMX track, I didn't take this level of disrespect. Thus, I committed thousands of lives to nuclear annihilation that would decimate the landscape because this garden ornament didn't understand who he was up against. Neither did I, really, as Belegar started the game with like 5 ghost heroes with unbreakable resolve, 0% assassination chance, and a profound resistance to nuclear bombs. That's like my whole thing, I thought. Then I opened my Warlock laboratory and used my Warpstone and Cheese to upgrade my elite minigun and sniper teams. The fundamentals of any rat army. Thankfully, when CA were making the most unfun army in the game, they forgot to add resistance to 80,000 circumcisions a minute. This, however, was not even close enough to kill Belegar himself, as I drop a nuclear bomb right on his head, killing a third of his army in 1 second flat. This only made him angry as he walked through my front line and beat the cheddar out of my gun line, which was most of our offensive power. You might look at these sights and think, gosh, YOLO is owning this battle, but I almost lost from this guy's sheer anger, all because I didn't pay his existence tax, which he aims to collect. So our main goal is to take him off the board, so I can play the game without this weeping angel of a dwarf beelining towards me every turn of the game. Speaking of, it was turn 30, and the chaos corruption to the west had subsided, and Belegar beating up my strange vampire girlie next door had removed the vampire corruption to the east. Both of these would hurt my little rats, who couldn't heal outside of Skavenblight, unless we camp out for the night.
Start camp plan! No devastation like Ikit's devastation.
So it was a pretty exciting moment 30 turns into the game to be able to walk outside of my base. Crazy stuff that could all be avoided if we captured a single city, but I'm getting too comfortable sniffing everyone's feet through the floorboards while they brush their teeth. On an unrelated note, our Anessa Saltspite needs to start flossing more. Oh no, Belegar came back to life instantly and beat her head in, killing her to death and taking all her territory around my base. I can't take the territory off him, so the only option is to blow everything up, which will ruin our Undercity, but at least blowing is something we're really good at, because of the nuclear bombs. And because I love sucking. Durgrim Morgrim, a dwarven lord, was swapped out for Belegar, looking for round 2. And he put up a pretty good fight, but like that weekend Mike Myers tried to get me, I walked away at a brisk pace, and retorted with my 7-barreled washing machine. I had destroyed one of his cities and returned to Skavenblight to heal, but by the time we had marched back to his territory, Belegar had come back to life with a full army. When you play this game above normal difficulty, the AI tend to make up their own rules, which would be fine if the rules weren't weaponized CBT aimed right at the enjoyment center of my brain. Despite his best efforts, I killed him for a 3rd time. And our armies led by Ikit Claw and Rot the Rat were still in fighting form. And by that I mean mangled to bits and needing surgery, but this was about as good as it was going to get, so we couldn't miss this opportunity. I sure hope the beastmen don't come back to life and start blowing up Astelia and taking their territory.
Because I'm a stud. I'm ballsy.
While I was loading a shotgun and putting it in my mouth, I checked on my warlock engineers in the Empire, who had built a series of tunnel networks with a 10% chance to build an Undercity in the adjacent province each turn. With these, I built workshops that produced money. Don't ask where the money's come from, but more importantly, cheese factories. The more cheese we had, the greater our economy. The economy of one settlement. It's better than Belegar's economy, as he came back to life again and dove headfirst into scientifically optimized violence, leading to his 4th death, and freeing Ikit Claw to barrel right towards his best location, which I sacked for 14 bands and then blew it up the next turn, while his immortal Cut Kings watched in the background.
Open the door. This is my neighborhood.
Finally, a huge dent to Belegar. He came back to life and underwayed right into me. His best territory to the north was gone, and he was surviving with very low tier settlements to the south, while actively killing himself for the 5th time. Who would win, chat? 1 dwarf or 1 billion bullets? This is arguably one of the worst leadership models I've ever seen, so you can understand how surprised I was that he confederated another dwarven faction, gaining more high-tier territory encased in a defensible mountain range. Would you guys recommend Buckshot or Slug? With Ikit and Rot, I choked out the Southern Territory, and something strange happened. Something very Yolocat video coated. Astelia, the tutorial faction I was supposed to kill on turn 1, had joined in the fight against Belisnor, even joining in sieges against him. And remember, I'm not taking any territory, so Astalia's deranged homeless men started scooping up every ruin they could find. Hopefully, they never look in their basement. When I set out on this challenge, I didn't plan on becoming best buds with an Empire faction. And the only mod I have installed is the cheese mod, so this rat and human alliance is pure vanilla gameplay, baby, which was pretty funny when random Twitch viewers who have never seen one of my videos would join my stream and immediately question why Icket Claw had Imperial Outriders in his army. It just makes sense. Stinkfinger and Icket pushed into the Empire to rid ourselves of the stunted paralysis demon that is Belegar, but unfortunately he had been nuked one too many times, and instead of bolstering his high-tier defensible city, he started traveling underground in completely random directions. This guy was once a terrifying threat to my entire run, even getting close to my one city, but now he was like a geriatric animal, bumping into the furniture at night. I think it's time for a dignified and peaceful ending. Finally, after giving this guy swirlies 5 times, he was out of the picture, and we were free to focus on fixing our floorboard-based societal structure. Our Undercities had spread through the Empire, including key locations like Altdorf. Here I built big money-making workshops. These are great in high-tier capitals like Altdorf or this one for the elves. Estelle had followed my path of destruction, taking all the slightly irradiated territory. Their one faction quality was protective, so finally aligning with them as they surrounded my one city that would end my run if it was destroyed was a pretty cool sight. However, Karl Franz was jealous that a campaign was about another Empire faction and not his. Thus, he got really angry with me. Or that's what I told myself as he asked me for his money back. I can't imagine where he got the idea I was taking money from him. With this newfound and unwarranted hostility towards me, I started murdering countless of Imperial peasants. Surely they were equally as responsible for Karl's actions. Here I noticed that Elspeth von Draken, another Empire Lord who is normally a powerhouse, was actually one of the weakest factions in the game. And the opportunity to kick a woman while she's down shouldn't be passed up. This impressed my righteous neighbor, who in one turn, the protective nation of Estelia declared war on Elspeth, the dwarves of Zufbar, whom I'd already beaten into submission, Scrag the Slaughterer, and Mega Satan. This is by all accounts certified girl boss behavior.
Yes, Queen.
I had plans to start building nuclear bombs under Karl Franz's bed for nothing more than the love of the game. But because CA hate Skaven, as they are the most underpowered and underloved faction in Total War Warhammer 3, building a nuke is a little tricky. Firstly, Undercities have a level of detection. Imagine when I stare at you while you sleep. I'm pretty quiet and that's the way we both like it. Now imagine that same scenario, but I blast Ice Spice and Lado's new track, Gaiat, from my JBL speaker. I think you'd be a little aware I'm in your room. Undercities are like this. You want to keep your detection level low or the Undercity will be found and destroyed. Now building a nuclear bomb unfortunately has a high level of detection, so you need to build stealth infrastructure to counteract this. The second problem is, and I know this might be shocking, but nuclear bombs are expensive. It's 1,000 gold to build the base, then 6,000 gold to upgrade, which takes 15 turns, not including the first turn you build it. However, all 16 of those turns have a 500 gold maintenance cost. 16 times 500 is 8,000 plus the original 7,000 construction cost, and that's 15,000 per nuke. But remember, you have to build the infrastructure so that the nuke isn't found and destroyed. That's an extra 7,000 gold, equating to a lot of cheddar, or 16 oiled up lap dancers in my Mr. Bean outfit. Whichever Karl Franz prefers. Me personally, I'd prefer to nuke more than one location, so we need a lot of money, but remember, the ultimate crisis is coming, so I'll need that money to literally survive the game. But if we can hold back the waves of rude dudes who will be a little unenthusiastic about our specific hobby, we can start to have some real fun. It was about turn 99, I was enacting my no emo girls allowed mandate. This enraged the local Reddit mods who attempted to suffocate me and Estelia with their pure stench, but we had a natural resistance after spending so much time in the zone. However, the game disagreed we would win my own ambush, and I kind of understand. This is a very strong army, not because of the high tier lord with a funny name, giant rhinos that shoot lightning at me, or some of the scariest cavalry in the game, but there were 2 units of noblars with kitchen knives. I know what you're thinking, we didn't bring enough nukes for this. In fact, I only dropped 1 right on top of my lord, in which he walked it off like an absolute girly boss. The great Ogre War in defense of Estelia was hard. Scrag the Slaughterer surprisingly lives up to the name, until he ran into my patent pending he's reaching routine. After wiping out his best armies, he sued for peace, but if you've seen my clan scrat video, you know I don't take kindly to someone beating on my funny little minor faction buddies. So unfortunately for him, he would have to spend the rest of his life wondering what that sound at 3 AM was, and why does he hear some sort of ticking countdown. He retorted by sending his best army with a max level Lord and Special Hero unit, Brag the Gutsman, with one of the most disgusting armies I've ever seen versus Rot the Rat. His 4 lawnmowers and a team of Navy Squeakles. It's safe to say the all attack, all violence, all charge max level army walked through my front line of 3 dudes and clobbered my nutsack silly style. But unfortunately for them, this is the 4th video I've made about Skaven, and I've got a 5th in the works. So when I close my eyes at night, all I see is gyrating violence, cheese, and planned schemes. Thus, before the fight started, I had 2 sniper teams hide on the hillside in the forest, and only open up after the melee broke out, locking most of their army down. Oh, these sniper teams fired the whole fight, nearly running out of ammo and coming down to them as my only functional units, winning the deadliest ogre battle and saving Estelia's lands. Beating the ogres marked a monumental point in the campaign, as there was no one directly threatening our lands, and thus Skaven Blight. And the French had come up from the desert just to beat up Scrag. They were friends with Estelia, so although we weren't directly aligned, we did have a pseudo Rebel Empire French Rat alliance, and for an unmodded run of Totalwar Warhammer 3, that's pretty cheese-tastic. It's safe to say we were living the good life, throgging it silly style. Things were so good Belegar Iron Fist came back to life, with 10,000 dwarves screaming about a book of grudges and my name, as legions of elves spawned right over the mountain from Skaven Blight. Much like me when I see my postman acting a little too zesty with my mailbox, it was time for home defense. Some of the toughest dwarven armies waddled towards my one run-ending capital, and Belegar Shorthammer ran away, leaving them to die. Belegar, I need a climactic fight for the YouTube video, broski. Alright, whatever, mate. Let's get this over and done with. Belegar is all the way at the back. He literally didn't even get in the fight. Belegar's 6th defeat in a row marked the downfall of his people, which the elves tried to save. Elves and dwarves rarely work together, but in the face of nuclear annihilation, prejudice against height seems a little silly. Perhaps we could all learn something from this. With the dwarves out of the way, I began to farm the elves for money to fund my plans of nuking everyone to end all conflicts against the Great Schizoid Alliance. Scrag wasn't enthusiastic about this and attacked with a powerful army that included a lot of artillery and one entire Noblar. I know, I might be cooked here, but we had used our warpstone and cheese to upgrade not only nuclear bombs in our workshop, but the warp block Jezzail sniper teams, who could outrange the enemy artillery. Afterwards, Rot the Rat couldn't take this level of disrespect and beelined into 2 armies and a garrison. Perhaps a dangerous move, but my favourite Skaven clan is Clan Pestilence, which people make fun of me for. Despite using Rot the Rat, a Plague Priest, with 15% health left to stall and hold this entire army by summoning 3 Vermintides at once and plaguing the gaps. Shout out to my stink rat enjoyers out there. Rot had soloed most of Scragg's territory for money, while the mountains betwixt, yeah, I said betwixt, Skavenblight and the Elves was a nightmare war zone, but all of this had funded me the money to Undercity most of the Empire. With Skavenblight at max level, the cooldown for an Undercity was only 5 turns. And they were pumping out money in time for Scrag to not be a threat. Belegar is gone, and the Elves? Okay, the Elves are even stronger. How? I sent Rot on holiday to save money, and pulled my forces back to defend Skavenblight. As I chose Altdorf, Nuln, the Black Pit, the Brass Keep, Castle Tempenoff, the King's Glade, the Great Halls of Fendor, and Karak Angazar to construct nukes in. I wanted to do the whole empire, but with each one costing 15,000 gold, I opted to just nuke 7 key locations. That would only cost me 105,000 gold, which isn't too bad provided the 36 Elven armies now descending upon me don't strip me down, steal my socks, and empty my piggy bank. Only fielding 2 armies, we were milking the few Elven forces who had the branches to push out of the forest. And by turn 143, we had half of the cost for our nuclear operation. Let it begin. What followed for the next 15 turns was my best MG42 impression, as I bounced the notorious Stinkfinger and Icket Claw around the mountains, barbecuing the elves to the tune of 50,000 gold. Uh-oh, 3 armies caught up to my 2. It's okay, I only need to micro 40 units, most of which have to have perfect line of sight and angles, while being defended by 9 spellcasters, all with abilities, and Bone Chomper. What? Is that Greg? I scored 16,000 from this one, but it cost me 1 rat. Wasn't worth it. I continued these scrappy battles to claw out enough money to stop the banks from repossessing my life. But thankfully the Elven apocalypse was lucrative enough to fuel the actual apocalypse. And on turn 159...
I love you.
We love you too.
We had successfully survived the endgame crisis, nuked our opposition using our Undercities, and wait, what is that? The elves are retaliating? Every single Elven army of the 3 factions now irradiated marching on Skavenblight? They were so serious that they even ambushed me, a Skaven player?
Put down my bag of rats and explain something to you.
Bag of rats still alive?
Most of them are.
Guys, listen, I'm just a silly little guy in my tower, pressing the funny big red button, and the tree from Fallout appears in my house like Frederick Fazbear with a knife. And by knife, I mean enough arrows to block out the sun, weaponized zoos, and the villains from The Lord of the Rings. The nukes were at turn 150. It's now turn 170, and I've been forced into fighting manual battle after manual battle, as even the game wants me to lose at this point. A half-dead army backed up by not even a 20 stack? Yeah, apparently that's a game ender. Keep in mind, Ikit Claw the war criminal on his lawnmower death machine doesn't even take damage anymore. I was stuck in an elven purgatory of my own making. I couldn't escape and build another base to push them back, but if they managed to kill me, I wouldn't go alone. And that made me think, if I'm going to lose, maybe they should as well. I wonder if anyone's ever thought of that before. Thus, I beelined all of my armies under the mountain right into the defensive blockade. Like sleeper agents, they marched on Skaven Blight. Rat player, remember? I'm always plan scheming. Yes. Rot doubled back for the defense, and Undercity and Castle Carcassonne over the mountain, I could improve my army's movement on the map. So when they counterattack the defense, you can't catch me, and I'm already at your house. This push was a make or break moment. All the armies tried to show me their kneecapping technique as I underwayed to the heart of the Elven Grove. Underwaying means no retreat, so hordes of twinks jumped me, and not in a good way. You might think, YOLO, this is a questionable move, but the underway battle is a long corridor with no room for flanking, and my army is made up of 300 rats with sniper rifles.
Sniper monkey.
We then took the Elven capital, which the snipers and artillery can fire from their spawn to the main control point, where I have Ikit Claw do distraction donuts. Seeing these sick moves, the defenders got popped in the hood and other questionable things. The elves backed off, freeing me up to heal and destroy 2 more of their capitals. Now there were only 2 left. Yippee, you might think. YOLO can end the video in this deranged elven purgatory, and then I can like and subscribe. Wow! What a wonderful world that would be. As I zoomed out to find Orion not only had random territory in the Empire, but after 70 turns of me killing his forces, he spawned 24 stack armies, somehow funded by a handful of tier 1 forts, and even worse, he started calling me slurs. What? There was no way I was assaulting these forts, and I'm not an expert, but I think the wood elf who has to live in the forest that I just blew up is somehow cheating his economy. Thus, I don't think attrition will kick in unless I get rid of all of his territories. So what do? How do I win the Elven War? How do I end the video? The video? About Undercities? To deal with the hidden locations in the Empire, I spawned Vermintines across the land, and for these 2 key locations, I have another solution, Orion. I just need you to stand still for 16 turns. The fighting with the elves went on for so long, the western provinces invaded the Empire from the north. The other Borderlands tutorial faction I was supposed to kill came back to life and started fighting the elves with Astelia, the French, myself, and even Greece's Goldtooth. Seeing this was a fun reprieve from fighting 3 elven armies each turn. And CA, if I have to jump through these hoops to win, can we at least have the armies be interesting? Another 3 stacks of tier 2 tree melee only units? That's definitely a win. You're right, I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. How are they even recruiting this? These armies weren't as bad as the Empire, who kept trying to stop me. No one cares about you, Carl. You're boring.
You're boring.
I had mustered 2 more armies to defend Skaven Blight, with my income from fighting 3 million twinks from herbology. And they had regrouped with Ikit and Rot, who had to fight through the forest, the mountains, the Empire, and back again, all while taking attrition and being chased down by unlimited tree-based armies. But you know who hates trees more than me? Lumberjacks. As an angry dwarf with a giant axe led the forces of Carrot Carden through the entire entire empire and destroyed Orion's final location. Orion wasn't dead, but this was pretty exciting, as the mental fatigue of repeating this fight was really starting to hit. Orion captured Altdorf. How? I was so close to wiping out Durthu and Rioth. So despite attrition from the forest, roaming dwarven kill teams, and the bank literally running out, we pushed through the ruined forest again to fight the forces Oglog the Mad had kept pinned down, while a splinter team went for Rioth's last fortress. Durthu didn't stand a chance, as he thought he was fighting on his turf, but we all know what's underneath. And Widroth, who had only been recruiting trees, didn't match up to my only flamethrower army. Checkmate, buddy. The final Elven armies besides Orion sailed off into the ocean. Guys, I need a climactic ending for the video. Guys, where'd you go? Oh, I can't have another non-climactic moment. Maybe if I shake my computer like a snow globe, something cool will happen. The Slayer King walked through the entire empire again and killed Orion, while Durthu's final army sailed right into Skavenblight, yoinking huge money from the Empire and expanding my Undercities, then deleting all my armies as there were no nearby threats to Skavenblight. This boomed my economy, and in only a short few turns of optimizing my Undercities, I could not only afford one nuke per turn while being protected by my elite neighbors, but through my Undercity network, I got to watch the transatlantic Greece-Asian Empire steamroll the rest of the dwarves on the map. The Empire was cooked. Skavenblight was safe. I was lacking in cheese, but we'll make do with the ability to vaporize anyone from the complete self-sustaining safety after we'd survived ultimate crisis mode. Befriended the greatest of champions, decimating anyone who could pose a threat to us with only building Undercities. Thank you for watching. Shout out to my Twitch subscribers and YouTube members for supporting the channel, and if you'd like to support me, click the join button down below, join my Discord, or come hang out in the streams. Thank you for watching. Wait, what was my objective again? I still haven't finished the tutorial?